All right. Welcome to our third week of Design 250. I hope you guys are all feeling good about where we're going here and the directions that your portfolio pieces are moving. We've definitely seen some significant progress over the last 2 weeks. Let me jump into our classroom here. We're going to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing this week, and also getting ready for next week as well. So first of all, in the announcements, as usual, keep in mind I've posted our learning coach's schedule right here. So this is Christy Paulson's schedule for this week. Looks like she's going to be available tomorrow from 12 to 7, and then on Thursday from 4 to 9, on Friday from 5 to 10, and then on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Okay, so we've got our contact information here. If you need any one-on-one help, she's a fantastic resource. Just look for that in the announcements. Secondly, I got all of the grading done for everything that was submitted as of yesterday. So do go in and take a look at that. And in particular, I saw some really nice revisions on the resumes. So great job on getting those updated and looking nice and graphic designery. we want those to not, to still serve the purpose of a resume, as it is with design. We want to communicate, not decorate. At the same time, we want them to be clearly stand out from the crowd of resumes that any job is going to see come in, and clearly show this person has skills as a graphic designer. And I think we had some great representations of that in what was turned in yesterday as well. Anyone who's running a little bit behind in the course, be sure to contact me, and we can set a plan for getting caught up. This is a little bit over halfway through the mod now. We've got this week and next week to go, and I want to make sure that you guys are all where you need to be and getting ready to have a successful end of the course for next week. So let's look at what we're going to be doing this week. First of all, with our discussion, the discussion is on job postings. And it says there are a variety of jobs available in the graphic design field. Many of these jobs may be just what you want to do and are qualified for. In this discussion forum, find at least 2 job postings from online job boards. So that some examples of that are monster.com, careerbuilder.com, and Indeed.com that you feel you'd be qualified for once you graduate. Post the actual text from the job listing in the discussion board, not links, or not just a brief description. So you're going to copy and paste the entire job listing. And then you're going to tell us something, if it's something that you think you'd be interested in doing, and also whether you think you're qualified for it or not. Okay. So as that states, you don't have to be qualified for it to choose it. It can be something that looks interesting to you, because you are going to then say whether you think you're qualified. Your answer might be, you know what, I think I'd probably need a couple of years working in design in order to get my skills polished up to where I could apply for this art director position or whatever it is that you find. Now, in my discussion, I posted a few other sites that you may want to look at. But really, like if I go to monster.com and, I can put in a location. Let's go ahead and just say Salt Lake City, Utah. We'll do Salt Lake County. And I'm just going to type in graphic designer. Okay. Now, what I want to show you is that there are a lot of ways this can be worded. So this found 173 jobs, right? So 173 jobs just in the Salt Lake County for graphic designers. However, some of these are going to be take some specialized skills, like this UX designer. It may not all be ones that I am qualified for or that I'd be interested in having. But I do also want to point out that there are other words to look for. Also look for graphic artists, okay? And that may find some different ones. Or you could look for layout artists. Maybe you're specifically interested in layout. Okay, and that found some other things. Maybe I'm specifically interested in seeing what sort of things are there for an art director. maybe I'm not qualified to be an art director yet, but I'd like to see what's available, because that's my goal, is to eventually become an art director, right? And you can see they're not all relative. Like here we have an Uber driver partner, which is obviously not an art director. These are all in Louisiana too. Nice. Oh, that's right. I didn't find any. So there weren't any art director positions here in my area, so it's filling those in instead. But I could get rid of the Salt Lake County one, and I could look and see if there are any near me. Maybe somewhere I'd be interested in relocating. Art associate creative director for Amazon corporate, right? That'd be kind of cool, working for Amazon. So anyway, get creative with your searches, because the point of this isn't just to check it off, find a couple things, but really to explore what is available out there. So take the time for yourself, dig into it and see what things are available either in your area or where you would like to be, or you're willing to be, and so you can set some goals for yourself as you're leaving school here. Now, just like the other discussions, you need to have your initial post, your initial response to this prompt in by Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. And that initial response needs to be at least 150 words, which is not going to be hard when you're copying and pasting the descriptions. But please try to expand a bit when you're of your own words when you're talking about if it seems like something you'd be interested in doing and why and if you're qualified. Secondly, make sure that you do your 2 responses. Remember, at least 2 responses to these, and that's due by Saturday at 11:59 p.m. And make sure that you are participating on at least 2 different days of the week. So don't do them all on the same day. Split them up a little bit. Okay? So let me know if you have any questions about that at all, but that is our discussion for this week. Now, moving on. We have a post-learning assessment. The post-learning assessment is basically just a general quiz on graphic design and the concepts and tools that you've learned throughout your entire time here in the school. So it says here, congratulations, you've reached the end of the associate level graphic design courses and halfway to the bachelor level courses. This post-learning assessment has been created to determine what you've learned in the field of graphic arts after taking your associate level courses. You'll have 60 minutes to go through this assessment. Questions will show up one at a time, and you are given only one opportunity to answer each question. So read carefully. Make sure you're reading all the options, reading the question carefully, because you're only going to get one chance to answer each one, and you want to make sure that you don't misunderstand one of the questions or answers. Please do not try to look up or Google answers. Just give an answer that you feel fits best for each question, okay? So we want to know what you know. Don't go out there and try to search for it. We know you can search for these things. We're curious to see, what you know after this is done. So just kind of read over and give what you think is the best answer. If you don't know an answer, that's okay. Our goal for this assessment is for you to see what you may still need to brush up on, okay? So when you're done with this, you'll be able to see, okay, so maybe I'm a little weak in the area of InDesign. Maybe I'm a little weak in the area of web design. Anything like that. And so that's going to help you to know what things you may want to focus on. Maybe go watch some Lynda courses or get some help, from the Student Success Center, something like that, in order to round out your skills and get you ready for the work, the career after school. Think of this assessment as a bird's eye view of the content that has been covered in your associate level courses. Okay? If this is your last design class because you're in the associate's degree program, we wish you the best and know that you will we wish you all the best and know that you will be able to come back and audit any course again at no charge after you graduate. So let's stop there and talk about that. You may or may not already know that part of your benefits of graduating with Independence University is that you have the ability to retake not for credit, but just for information. We call auditing the course. Any course that you've already taken without having to pay for it. So why would you do that? Let's just say, like I said, you take this test and you go out in their work field and you start feeling like, you know what, I really could use some additional instruction on packaging design, or you know what I mean, or color theory, whatever it is, somewhere where you're like, I remember these things, but I feel like that I didn't pick it up as well as I wanted to, and I'd really like to go over that again. You can contact the school and we will enroll you as in auditing the course. So again, it's not for a grade, it's not for additional credit, it's just for you to be able to go through the course again for free. And you can then review all that material again, do the course again, get graded again. You'll be working with your teacher and stuff like that, just like normal, and strengthen that area. Okay, so do remember that you have that ability to come audit any course that you've already taken at any time. And it says, or come back and get your bachelor's degree. And those of you who are in the associate's program, that may be your next step. You may decide that you'd like to continue on and finish up with your bachelor's as well, which is you'll expand a whole new area of skills. You'll get more in-depth courses on many of the subjects and additional courses not offered in the associate's level, like digital photography. If you're in the bachelor's program, consider this the halfway point and use this post-learning assessment to focus on any weak areas you feel you may still have. Okay? So again, you have an hour to do this, and so I would recommend setting aside an hour. Don't come in and start this if you only have 30 minutes until you need to go somewhere, because you may not find, you might get it through in that time, no problem, but you don't want to feel like you're having to rush through it because you don't have the time to finish it up. Okay? All right, so those are two of our things that we are doing this week. Now let's move on to the third one, the continuing on with the revisions that we've been doing throughout the mod so far. So final portfolio revisions. This is our big one. No late submissions accepted on this one. Watch the critique of your week 2 resubmission in week 3's live session recording. So here we are. And make any additional changes recommended in the critique. I will be doing some of these today, and I'll be doing some of these on Thursday, just so you know. So we'll be going through them just alphabetically, actually. Now you should have all your projects tweaked and ready to put in your web portfolio. Yay! Correctly prepare your flats of all of your projects as shown in this week's live session and upload them to your Behance or Muse portfolio websites. And we're going to be talking about that on Thursday. Okay. Use the organizational and optimizing tips given in the live session. We'll talk about that, possibly some today, and then also on Thursday. Take any project that should be presented in a mock-up, e.g. package design, billboards, printed trifolds, etc., and then below are sites where you can use provided templates, or go to the links and find mock-up templates that will work with your existing final projects. So you're going to have two things here. You should have a flat for everything, okay? So the flat just being the actual design as it looked when you exported it from from InDesign or Illustrator, Photoshop, whatever you made it in. Not mocked up on something, not a realistic look of it as you might see in the real world. Just the actual design, nice and flat, there for you to examine it. So that's going to be your first thing. Then whatever items you've done that would warrant it, for example, like it says there, billboards, trifolds, business cards, anything where it would look good to see what this would look like. A great example is the boxes and the labels for wine bottles or tea boxes, seeing those folded up. We're going to want to make a mock-up of those ones, right? Now, some of you already have those mock-ups, but others need to still make one. Down at the bottom of this, we've got this thing that says 3D templates. And there's a whole bunch of links here for finding different templates. Maybe we want to do magazine mock-ups. This just says 3 Photoshop mock-ups. So let's go take a look at this one, just as an example. There's 100 free mock-up ones, right? And you've got all these. So here's some for stationery, business cards. Let's see if we can do a search here. Bottle. It's not quite a wine bottle. We might need to search for that, but a bottle. Let's say box. The narrow box. So, but you'd search through things and find the ones you need. Then you're going to download them. Just click on it, download it, and use that to mock up your design on it. Now, let's just say that I wanted to, let's say, PSD wine bottle mock-up template. Just doing a Google search for that. If you don't find what you're looking for in our links there, just go on Google and search for what you're looking for. There's a whole bunch of wine bottle mock-ups that I could use to show my wine bottle label, right? What about PSD tea box mock-up? 35 free Photoshop packaging mock-ups. So let's search for tea. Here we go. That's a rounded one. Let's go with here. We've got some boxes. Here's a tea box that we could use right there. So anyway, you should be able to find some pre-made templates that you can then place your designs on in order to mock up your work. But remember, we do need both. The flats, not for everything, but for the ones that make sense, we definitely want mock-ups. You need flats for all of them, okay? All right, make sure your Behance and Muse sites don't have any work on it that hasn't been approved by your AD, or instructor, okay? So if you've got things already on there, either remove them or make a separate site for them or something like that. You can put them back after this course is over for what you're doing for this course when you just have these approved ones on your Behance site, okay? You're going to create a PDF of your optimized files to submit along with your Behance and Muse portfolio sites URLs. So here's what you're going to submit. You're going to use Adobe Acrobat Pro to combine the files into a single PDF. Same as always that we've done so far. Your file can exceed 14 megabytes. There's your naming convention. And then you're also going to submit your URL to your Behance and Muse portfolio sites. And these all need to be loaded up on there. Now again, on Thursday, we're going to talk more about organization of those sites. Best ways to lay these things out, best ways to organize things in order to be a good, a well-functioning site. And we'll also talk about some other things with doing that as well. Okay? So any questions about that at all, be sure to contact me about it. What we're going to do for the rest of today is just start working through these portfolio revisions. And then on Thursday, like I said, we'll finish those up and talk more about getting things onto the Muse or Behance sites. Okay? All right, so we're going to start with Donna's. All right, so we've had some good revisions done on this here. The one thing, there were a couple of things that I still think would necessary here. One, we really need to have the baseline grid aligned. So make sure you're using a baseline grid to line up these baselines. Again, as it is right now, you can see the bottom of width on the left comes across at the top of the ventures on the right. We really want these to be aligned from left to right. Now, what I would do is I would worry about aligning the body text and then allow the headlines to kind of fall into place where they will. So that's one thing that I would do here. Another thing, just double check that you've got everything left aligned. I'm not sure if you've got these in multiple. So notice, for example, okay, I've got this this dotted line over here on the left. Notice that up here on this paragraph where it says having, custom, those, it's right on the left side of that. You get down here to where it says kayak and looking, those ones, there's a little bit of gap between that dotted line and the text. That tells me that these two paragraphs are not quite left aligned with the rest of them. So just double check on all of your stuff that you've got the columns perfectly, or all the paragraphs in the columns perfectly aligned with each other. Okay, this one looks like it's good. And then I would also get rid of some of this extra space between the subheadings and the text. So, you know, you don't necessarily need like that much space there. I would just, honestly, I'd probably get rid of all of it. I'd just go custom adventures and then move right into aqua excursion, strives to meet, rather than leaving that gap, and do that with all those blue ones. Secondly, watch for awkward hyphenations. You may want to just turn off hyphenations altogether. We've got a few awkward ones here. For example, waterways up here at the end of this second paragraph. It's just WA hyphen turways. There's not really a natural break in that. If it had been water hyphen ways, that might be one thing, but it's not. It's just, you know, WA. So I would just soft return that down. And I would do some soft returns here to try to close this gap after paddle. You know, if you soft return water down, soft return variety down, soft return kayak down, that might clean up the top of this a little bit better. Another place where you're getting an odd hyphen is experience right here in this kayak camping adventure paragraph. So I would just try to, you know, clean up those hyphenations. Let's see here. So same, now again, make sure you're being consistent with your spacing. Notice here that you've got, should I reserve a diable kayak, and then no space at all till the body text underneath it. Do I need any prior experience? No space at all. Here we've got some space, so I'd get rid of that. But also if you come down here, guided wildlife tours, big amount of space. Some highlights of tour are big amount of space. So I would close that space up. We're simply the best, big amount of space. Close that up so it's in line with this, where you've got no space between that and the body text below it. Secondly, this looks like, well, these three here look like they should be a list. You've got some highlights of the tour are. Now this bottom paragraph is kind of a further explanation, so I wouldn't make this bottom one part of the list. But the kayaking lesson, wildlife viewing, and fun on the water, those I think should be a list. Go ahead and just make those a bulleted list too there. These bullets here, notice there's no space between the lines of text for the bullet. These ones, there's a big space between the lines of text of the bullet, so I'd tighten that up. And again, make sure you're keeping things consistent. Look how much space there is between about us and this text versus between a tour package and that text. Very little here, very big here, very big here. I'm going to go into InDesign just to, and then there are several others that are going to have this same thing. And so everyone watching this, make sure and pay attention to this demonstration I'm going to do here, because this is something that can make a very big difference. So let's do 2 columns, and we're going to compare and contrast here. So without seeing your original file, I can't be sure this is what's happening, but I do see this quite a bit. And so I want to just show this as example. So here's one example. I'm going to come here and I'm going to fill this with placeholder text. Okay. And I'm going to make a few subheadings. Okay, so we're going to pretend these are my subheadings. And so for these subheadings, I'm going to go with myriad pro, and I'm going to go with a bold semi-condensed. Okay, now just to make this easier to apply to everything, I'm going to come here and I'm going to make a paragraph style out of this. And I'm going to call this subheads. Okay, let's go ahead and apply that to this. And to this. Okay. Now, I want some space between my paragraphs. Okay, so for my body text, I'm going to select this, and I'm going to go to my paragraph styles, and I'm going to make a new paragraph style. I'm going to hold Option while I click that, so it opens right here, and I'm going to call this body. And I'm going to go to indents and spacing, and I'm just going to add some space after each paragraph. Like so. Okay, and I've got my body text here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to apply that to these ones. Okay. Now, let's say that I want a little more space. Well, I wouldn't really want a little more space. I'll just leave that like that, okay? So here's one example. Now, and actually let's do this. Let's make these a little bigger so it's a little more obvious what I'm doing here. Okay, so here's one example. Now, oh, didn't mean to get rid of that. Now I'm gonna copy this paragraph over here, and I'm gonna do this in a different way. Okay, well, actually, let me pull this over here. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna make a text box, and in that text box, I'm gonna put this. Okay. And then I'm going to make another text box. And in that one, I'm going to put this. And then I'm going to just continue on. I'm just going to make copies of these ones. So we'll just grab this. And then we'll grab this. And my last two. This one. And this one. Okay, so I have the same text in both columns, right? In one column, I put all that text into one text box and then used the paragraph settings in order to adjust my spacing. Now what you'll notice is that over here, I'm trying to get this to fit right, trying to get it to line up right, but it's a lot harder for me to do. Now I can use what's over here on the left as my guide, but the reality is over here, in order for me to make sure that I've got the same amount of space between the paragraph before it and the next heading, as I do these two down here, I'm gonna have to go do major measurements using probably the transform panel. I could go over here and where are you? Why am I trying to remember where this goes in here? Here we go, transform. Okay, so I could go on the transform panel and I could use the XY grid in order to line it up right. But generally, people end up eyeballing it. Like, so does that look about the same? Yeah, that looks about the same. But here's the thing. This one over here, I know it's exactly the same. I know that the space after every one of these paragraphs is exactly 0.125 inches, right? And so I don't need to worry about that. I don't need to worry about making sure everything's lined up right. I also don't need to worry about whether this one is a tiny bit to the right of the other ones. Oh shoot, it's not quite left aligned. Well, this one's left aligned because it's all in one text box, not multiple ones. So my advice to you is this: don't create multiple text boxes for a single column of text. Even if it has headlines in it, sub-headlines in it, lists in it, all that stuff, just put them all in one text box. Create. Now, I wouldn't make one text box for both columns. I definitely want a different text box for each column that I'm doing. But I would want to just have one text box per column. And then I would want to use the paragraph style or paragraph panel and then save it to styles in order to make sure that my spacing between those items was the way that I wanted it to be. Okay? Makes things so much easier and makes things more consistent. All right. So my guess is that, again, without seeing the original file, I'm not certain, but my guess is that's what's going on here. And also with this little bit of alignment different there is that these things are in multiple text boxes, where in reality, you should just have one text box for this column, one text box for this column, and then one here, one here, one here, and just fit everything into it and use those settings to make the adjustments. Okay. Also watch for little things like, for example, the first word of this paragraph is making, but it's not capitalized. So go ahead and capitalize that making right there. All right, moving down to your menu. So that's looking pretty good there. Did a good job fixing some of the stretched images, stuff like that. These aren't quite aligned. You've got this finger on the left is special, finger on the right is special, but the one on the right is quite a bit higher. So make sure those are aligned with each other. Again, I would move the title of the item together with the description. Don't leave so much space, especially, again, like here, it's actually closer to the text above it, it looks like, than it is below it. We want to just kind of close those gaps, move those titles right down there with the descriptions. This salad still looks like it might be stretched. I could be wrong about that, but just double check that that salad isn't stretched. And extend this. You've got these this kind of patterned line between these, which is nice, but extend it down to be like kind of lined up with the bottom of the picture and the bottom of the text. And I would align the bottom of this picture with the bottom of the text personally. Here, make sure that this image has a bit of padding. So here you can see how these images have some space between them and the line above them and between them and the line below them. Right here, this homemade pizza one is pretty much right up against the line at the top and has a little bit of space on the one at the bottom. I'd just crop this image probably down a bit so you've got a little bit of space on the top as well. And still here, bring the titles down to the actual descriptions. You know, basically like you have it over here. These ones look good. See, chicken pizza, or sorry, buffalo chicken, and the description's right down there below it. That looks really good there. I would probably close up this legendary combinations. Although I see this is a bit different. I might, yeah, I'd close that gap there between legendary combinations and the description that's underneath it. But the legendary combinations, looks like we're missing a combination. I'm trying to. So this is Toto's combination, but this combination doesn't have a site. Maybe you would make this legendary combination, although it should. I feel like this pizza should have a name. Let's double check. Let me pull up the files here real quick. All right, where are you, menu? So that's the same one. Let me pull this up here. Okay. All right, so I'm looking at the menu here, and I'm just going to pull up the text. So basically, let me kind of, well, let's go to the text first, and I'll come back to that. So the legendary combinations, the first one is Gino's combination, then Toto's combination. So let's go back to this and see. We got to make sure that we're categorizing things correctly. So legendary combinations is the category, just like chicken favorites is a category. So legendary combinations and chicken favorites should be formatted the same. They are font-wise, but chicken favorites is left aligned while this is centered. So you want to decide whether you wanted to center chicken favorites or left aligned legendary combination. Then we've got two pizzas that are in the legendary combinations category. One of them is Gino's combination, which is what this top description is. One of them is Toto's combination. Just like we have 200 chicken favorites, buffalo chicken and Tuscan garlic chicken. So Toto's combination should be formatted the same as Tuscan garlic chicken, not like this. And then this one should have a Gino's combination, and it should be formatted the same as Tuscan garlic chicken as well. Okay, so let me know if that doesn't make sense, but basically legendary combinations and chicken favorites are your categories of pizza, and then buffalo chicken, Tuscan garlic chicken, Toto's combination, and Gino's combination are your names of your pizza. Okay. Now, from the garden is another category, and that's, so you see how you've got that one formatted different too, but that's okay. But again, make sure to move these descriptions up against the name of the pizza above it. Just double check that these fingers are aligned as well. Let's see here. It seems so. Make sure we're sticking with the same fonts. I just noticed that, so your Gino's giant meatballs should be the same font as Stuffed with Flavor and Baked to Perfection, and as chicken favorites, because again, that's a category of pasta. You now hit the pasta and entree. Gino's giant meatballs has two pastas underneath it, the spaghetti and giant meatballs, and the he and she. these need to be closed up, especially he and she. You can see has a very large gap between it. Then we've got the stuffed with flavor pastas, which is just the one, meat and cheese ravioli, and then baked perfection, which is Gino's classic lasagna. Now, these shouldn't be here. You've got meatballs and you've got Gino's classic lasagna, but this is Gino's classic lasagna down here, and these are the meatball options. So this is actually redundant. They're the same thing. If you wanted to put a couple of different specials there, that'd be fine. And again, make sure you've still got commas. You had cheese dip, comma, broccoli dip, comma. Make sure that you change those to periods there. All right. So coming down to your Walmart one, first of all, make sure that you are laying this out in the correct order. When doing a trifold brochure like this, the right panel is going to be the front of the brochure. So it would make more sense that this over here would be on the right, okay? The middle panel is going to be the back of the brochure. So if this is what you want on the back, that's great. I would probably put this on the back and then maybe this one on the inside. So I would probably do the girl, all the stuff on the left side should be on the right. All the stuff on the right side should be in the middle, and all the stuff in the middle should be on the left side in order to have it organized correctly for a brochure. Again, make sure we are aligning the baselines. We want these baselines to line up with each other. And I would reduce the space between this trim your waistline, improve your health, and the text below. Here again, I would move these subheadings, get the right gear, and stretch. Just move the text right up underneath those. Doesn't need to have such a large gap. It can be the same maybe as the gap between the lines of text. And then move this checklist. Well, alignment works well, but yeah, I would move this checklist up closer to benefits of walking. Okay. Now here, I think you could find a better font than this Nightlife of Fun, and I would recommend, well, yeah, I would probably just use the same font you're using in these other two, just so they're tied together more. This one looks a bit stretched. It might be a stretched version of that font, but just you'd make it the same as the font, and like this one here. And this image looks like it might be a bit stretched, so just double check that. This image here, we really need to find a higher resolution one. They're just quite pixelated. And that, I mean, it's a nice image, but the pixelization is going to make it not look very good in your brochure. So, I'm sorry, in your portfolio. So I would recommend finding a higher resolution picture, either of this or something similar to that. And this one is getting these lines. That might just be a PDF artifact, though. All right. Moving to our T box. Double check. This could just be a little bit of an optical illusion, but double check that this for refreshing iced tea brew as above is the same font size as for a delicious cup of hot tea pour. It looks like this one up top might be a little bigger. And we don't want that. We want to make them the same size. I would align, you got 100 tea bags. I'd align the baseline of bags with the baseline of 100 and maybe move them a little closer together. But it looks like tea bags is a little high compared to the 100. All right. Now I wouldn't, you've got cold not italicized and hot italicized. I would just make those the same. Either one of them, both italicized or both not. Now in this one, we still need to bring all the colors out to the baseline. Because here you did it. On the tee box, you brought that yellow all the way out, not the baseline, sorry, the bleed. You brought all that yellow out to the bleed, which is great, but we need to do that here too. You need to bring out this all the way out to the bleed. Make sure this, you see how you've got this black kind of frame around this, and it's smaller on the right than it is on the left. Just make sure this gold is kind of centered in that black. All right. So that's all for Donna. Donna, let me know if you have any questions about any of that. And I look forward to seeing your final revisions. Okay, so moving on now to Denise's. All right. So that works well there with the only thing, because this is a campaign, you've got, it looks like you have well, you have a different font for Oregon here than you do here. And so you'd want to keep those fonts the same. You also have the first font here as well. So just make sure you got the same font for both instances of Oregon and the two different types of logos there. Explorer doesn't look like it's quite centered in its background. Shop, stay, and eat look pretty centered, but make sure they're all exactly. This whale image looks like it goes a little lower than this one of the boat on the dock. Just make sure they're lining up on the bottom. This turned out really nice here. So the only thing that I question on this one, overall, I think it looks very nice. You've got 3 fonts going on here, and that's quite a few fonts to have, especially with so little text. Got 3 fonts for 5 words. I might experiment with using maybe the same font you wrote Oregon in to write the pure Pacific Northwest. Moving into Stella's foundation. So here, and just thinking about hierarchy, the words vice president look like they're in a bit higher, a bit bigger font than Stella Jones. I could be wrong about that. Just double check it. But we generally want the title to actually be smaller. Now, since you have them on the same line, you could also do the same size, but just make sure the vice president isn't bigger than Stella Jones, because the name is the priority there. Okay. Nice looking wine packaging here. So here's one thing to think about. When this box is folded, that word serendipity is going to go right to the edge, which means just based on the normal shifting of printing, you could have times when part of that Y is being folded around the side of the box. If I come over to this side, S has a little bit of space. So I would just reduce that size a little bit so that the Y is about as far away from the right side of the box as this is from the left. If you look, if I bring that down like that, you can see if this was folded and printed, that word serendipity would look like it was shifted to the right, and would be right, like part of it probably hit the fold. Double check that with the Cabernet. So that one would probably be okay, although you might want to go a little smaller on the Cabernet Sauvignon and center it a little bit better. It's shifted to the left quite a bit, actually. See how the C in Cabernet is very close to that edge. The end's got a little more space, but particularly the 1999 Reserve, you see there's much less space on the left of that than there is on the right. Let's make sure that's centered in that panel. And just double check the same things here with the Willamette Valley Vineyard. All right. Now, this gets a bit crowded. Well, let me check something here. So here we have the same issue that I was looking at earlier, where these columns aren't quite left aligned. You see how the text under thinking of refinancing has a little bit of space between it and that dotted line, where the text between these first two is right up against that dotted line. The thing to do here would be to put that all into one text box, and then you'll know that you can control that spacing exactly. Okay. Also, make sure you've got the same amount of space between each one. You've got this green bar going between thinking of refinancing and reputation risk. There's quite a bit of space on the top, very little space below. However, you come down to this helping first, there's very little space either on top or below. Okay, so make sure that you are setting a specific amount of space between each one of these sections, and then you can set this green, these green bars to be in a specific location in that space. So there's always the same amount of space above it and below it between each one of these sections. And that'll help it to not feel quite so crowded through here. Now, you've got a bulleted list with numbers. We want to do either one or the other. In this case, I think it would make more sense to do a numbered list. So we would get rid of these bullets, and instead we would have the numbers there. So 1 would be here, then the thing after it, 2 would be here, then the thing after that. Don't let it have both, though, not numbers and bullets. Now here, if your identity is stolen, that's a subheadline. Just like this one, these should both be left aligned with this text above them. You can see this one, there's a pretty big space between it and left line of that text. And then this one, same, there's also, it looks like we're missing a space between if and your here. But make sure that those are left aligned with what are now the bullets, but will be the numbers when you fix that. And this one is just bullets, so you can keep this list just as bullets. That works fine. Just left align this heading subheading over there. So there's things you must know before you refinance. I'd center that a bit better vertically. It's a little lower in that black space. And again, so here you've got this subheading is if your identity stuff is stolen, if your identity is stolen, and then no extra space before it goes to the list, which is good. Down here we have if it's not the rate, it's the fees, and then quite a bit of space. I would move these down up against the paragraph or below them. And same, so we have another double bullet here this time. So you see you've got a bolded list, but then you also have a bullet before each one of these that was manually typed. So go delete these manual bullets here. And just leave the real bullets out there to the left. So this black text on the screen gets a little hard to read. You may want to consider doing a white banner like you did with Subscribe Today. You could even put the Get 12 Issues underneath Subscribe Today, make it all in one big white banner. But it gets a little lost in that dark green with the black text there. Also, your V down here in Save is filled in for some reason. We'll double check that. All right, going down to the menu, we want to get rid of this white background behind that badge there. Just let it be on top of the yellow. So the Italian BLT just says "We amp you" below it. Looks like they're missing part of the description there. Make sure and fill in the rest of that. And I would close this space between this, you've got a lot of space between the description and where the items start. I just close that up a bit. Same with here, bring up these soft drinks a bit closer to the label above them. And I would unbold this text. The body text, make that not bolded. It'll add a bit more contrast to your piece, and two, it'll make it easier to read. I would get rid of this black stroke around the phone number and delivery carrying thing got there. And again, get rid of this white background on this badge. And if you look, the bottom of the badge is getting cut off. So we want to replace that so that the badge is all showing within the frame you've made, and then get rid of the white background in the frame. All right. So that's all Denise's. Denise, if you have any questions about those at all, just let me know. And we are going to take a 15-minute break real quick. And then when we come back, we will continue on with some more critiques. So let me just set a timer here. And I will see you guys in 15. Okay, we are back. Let us continue forward with the Megans now. All right. So it looks like we want to tighten these lines right here. This Cherry Blossom Festival event in Barber, Ohio. I want to keep that leading about the same as we have the other places, and it looks like it's getting a bit wide there. I'd shift this 399 to the right a bit. Probably align it with the 7 down here. Left align that. Now with this, again, we really want to make sure that we're exporting this as a spread. It's hard to get a good sense of how this layout works with the two separate pages like this. So I would recommend, definitely exporting this as a spread so you see the whole thing together and all the pages that should be spreads. So basically you've got your cover and the rest of these should be spreads. Okay. We did a good job of creating a more even flow here. I might space these a little bit more so that this ends up with never mind. This is going to, being a magazine, this is going to bend in a bit there, so that's probably fine. I would left align these though, because again, we want to be thinking of alignment with all the pieces. You've got the left side of this banner, left side that line with this piece here, then right align the right side of that banner with this one there, and then spread out that spacing to be equal. This isn't quite going to the right edge of the page. Let's make sure that goes all the way over. Now with this, I would probably shift, so a couple of things. One, this doesn't look like it's quite left aligned with each other here. And I get this may be centered and then this may be left aligned, but because they're so close, I would left align them. I just, move that state troopers over to be left aligned with letter to the editor. And I would reduce the leading on this text there, make it quite so airy, and reduce the space between paragraphs a bit too. That will allow you to give a little more space down at the bottom between the bottom of the text and that blue line below. And make sure that blue line is going all the way out so that it left aligns with the text and right aligns with the text as well. Make sure your space between your paragraphs is the same. You can see this one here has got quite a bit more space than the other ones do, so make sure those are all the same. And we've got a really big gap here after Akron for some reason. It's like maybe there was a soft return there, so you want to bring that up, allow those paragraphs to go naturally, which will probably also help get rid of this festival orphan on the bottom. This I would like to see have a little more design place to it. I would set up a grid, maybe a 3/5 grid on that page. So if you were to go here, and come up to layout and create guides, maybe if you were to go with 5 rows and 3 columns. And I'm just not going to do any gutters. Then I've got this grid here, and then you can use these intersection points and these lines to come up with a layout for these at places, maybe have this centered on intersection points, maybe have this lining up at the side lines. in order to make it feel like a little more designed in its placement rather than just placed. Okay. All right, going down to the menu here. All right, that looks pretty good there. I'd probably reduce these line lengths a little bit. Just maybe cut it off. You know, you could give a little more space on the left, a little more on the right, and so that you end up with a little bit shorter lines going all the way across. And you know, you've got plenty of room on these second lines to move those down. Again, make sure that you've got these spaced right. We've got this one very close to the left. Then this delicious pizza thing's pretty close to that one. Then there's a big gap between it and the picture on the right. Then there's more, you know, a pretty big gap between the picture on the right and that red on the right. So make sure that that space on the left is the same as this space on the right, and that this is centered between these two images. So the space on the left and the right of it is the same as well. With this one, make sure you're filling your frame with the image. See, we've got a little bit of a gap on the left and right of it. So just fill that frame with that image, and you can go to the fitting and fill frame proportionally. We'll do that. I'd do the same thing as far as reducing the length of these lines a little bit. I'd probably have an and before home and before meet. You just do a soft return there. Again, double check that you've got the same amount of space between each section. Like, for example, the line that says red onion on a bed of iceberg lettuce to the line that says Caesar salad seems kind of bigger than the one between Parmesan cheese tostaginos and Italian chopped salad. Not quite as much there. So make sure those are all evenly spaced. And double check you've got a space here at the beginning of homemade that's making it so that that doesn't quite left align with the rest of the text. I might make this text in this callout a hair smaller so you get a little more room on the left and the right of it. And again, this should be as a spread since it is a spread, so make sure you're exporting it as one. And you've got this, so here you've got it justified with the last line to the left. You want that on all of it. See how down here the last line is being spread all the way across it? And here as well, all this page, the last line is going all the way across. You want this to be justified with the last line to the left, not the last line also justified. And this page number should be lower. That's normally in the footer, so it'd be outside of the margin. And also this typography, those should be lower on both pages quite a bit. I'd probably move them right down, you know, so they're sitting on that brown line or just a little above the brown line. All right. You know, the front of this would look nice with an image. You could shift down basically everything from Walking with Walmart, just shift that all down a little bit and have some space for an image right there. But some sort of an image would look nice there. And I would shift up the Stay Motivated paragraph just a little bit so that Track Your Progress and Stay Motivated are aligned, and the first line of each paragraph are aligned as well. this should be left aligned. We don't ever want to center a list. So left align that walking and check at Walmart list. All right. So this looks nice with that chunky font there. With these lines here, I would make them a little more balanced, like so the same amount of space on the left as there is on the right, and also make use. You can have a little more space between each one of them, and also make sure they have the same amount of space between each one of them. And here I would just move that Barberton, Iowa a little closer up against Mumfest. And make sure that image is going all the way off the page. You see how there's white space on the bottom or on the left of it. Here, this purple, you can see how it's not quite aligned at the top with the image on either side. And I honestly don't think it's necessary. You've got this one with these other two just have the image filling the whole thing, and then your call out. I think you could do the same thing here. Get rid of that purple on the left and right and just let the image fill that whole space. And I like this Lake Anna. It turned out nice. I would left align this Barberton, Ohio with the Mumfest, like you've done here, but I would left align this one even more so. So make sure you've got a nice left alignment on both of those. And yeah, otherwise it looks really good. So any questions on that, Megan, just let me know. Let's move on and look at Kathleen's. So with this, we've got this logo kind of cleaned up some now. Now I'd like to see it in context, Kathleen. So I would say do a couple of mock-ups, like one of maybe a business card using your logo, one with like a letterhead using your logo, maybe an envelope using your logo. Let's put this logo to work in a couple of places so that people can see where, how it would look in context rather than just stand alone. Okay. On the block financial, so if we zoom in, you can see that this white space between each letter is not the same. So we want to make sure that those are all the same amount of white space. Also, if we run a line across the top of this, you'll see that these are not all aligned. So see how that's perfectly on the top of the B, but the L sticks out. The O sticks out, the C sticks out, but not as much. The K sticks out, but not as much. Let's run this along the bottom. And you can see also they're not aligned. The B here is just perfect with it. The L is perfect with it. The O starts getting a little bit of space. The C and K have some space there too. So make sure that those squares are perfectly aligned on the top and the bottom. And then make sure that the letters are placed exactly, centered in the squares too. The C seems a little to the right on there, but for the most part, that part's pretty good. And I'd close the sledding between financial corporation a little bit. Okay, moving down to the happy anniversary again. So we still have some disconnect in the distance between lines in some of these. So you see how big of a gap we have between those ones, or these ones here. See how happy anniversary has been stretched here? If you look at the height of the letters, like look at the circles of these P's compared to the circles of these P's. Those are really round. These ones are really long. So this text has been stretched. If we're going to do this one, we want to make sure that we've got a perfect pattern. Every one of them is the same amount of space from each other all the way around, and none of the text is stretched at all. Okay. So good job cleaning up some of the lines on there. That turned out nice. So this one, again, I'd like to see some context for this. What, think of some examples, something where you put that on. So Professor Frigger, is it on a t-shirt? Is it on a postcard? Think of some context for this where you could then do a mock-up of it. Same here. Let's look at some context for this. You might want to, again, look at doing a brochure, a business card or a letterhead or envelope. Those would be kind of easier ones to put this on. Or if you wanted to finish doing the milk carton, we could do that. But let's find some context for this now that we've got it laid out that way. And then same here too. So I'd like to see is for you to come up with some, some real world uses for these things, so that you should have those in your portfolio as well. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at Cynthia's. So that's turning out really nice. Here, make sure and do that same, the fill frame proportionally. You'll see how you've got this little line underneath the image there between the edge of the frame. We want to get rid of that. Double check. So this add a super salad in your sandwich seems like it's further apart from sandwiches than this one is from pastas and this one is from soups and salads. Also, I would left align this pastas, entrees, and that with the text below it. It looks like you're centering them. Like this one looks like it's all centered. So make sure this text below. If you want to center these headlines, that's okay. But this soups and salads looks pretty far to the right. That one looks kind of centered. This one looks kind of centered. Kind of pick a consistent placement for that heading. Is it left aligned with the text below? Is it centered with the text below? Or is it right aligned? Well, I would avoid right aligned. And then make sure that this paragraph below, add or super salad, use a consistent alignment for that as well. And then just make sure that the sandwiches one is as close to sandwiches as these two are to each other. The San Pellegrino feels like it's a bit further away from Aquafina than the other one, so just double check that. Now, everywhere else you've done a red or a green stroke around the images, and this black stroke does seem to stand out quite a bit on these two, so I would do the same. Go to a red or a green. Maybe one's red and one's green on those. And then here, move these item names right up against the description. And we want to avoid like this sausage. Don't let that hyphenate there. So soft return sausage. Honestly, I'd soft return any of these that have two lines, so the two lines are fairly similar in length. So maybe this one, I might soft return it like after mushrooms. Bring all that down there. Maybe this one, I mean, I'd have to play to see for sure, but maybe this one gets soft returned before mushroom, before onions. But make it so these 2 lines of text, instead of having a really long one and a tiny one, this one's an orphan there. Make sure they're kind of similar in length, and that would look nice on this. All right, do Times New Roman here. I would shift this. It's one of the most popular fonts used today, just a hair down. And I would put these process and designer subheads right up against the paragraph below them. And same here with this process one. I'd left a line at first of all with the text below, and I'd put it right up against the text. The process continued. And these page numbers are too high. Page numbers should be outside of the margins, so just move the page number and typography down in both of those and export this as a spread, the whole thing. Now on these, I would get rid of this first line indent on any of these first paragraphs. Keep the first line indent on a second paragraph anytime there's more than one, but get rid of the first line indent on the first paragraphs. Make sure you're using a baseline grid. Again, if I come and I mark the baselines, although it doesn't have one, let's go here. You see how that, the baseline under the ends up coming across the top of custom adventure. So use a baseline grid to align those baselines. Here we've got a white gap on the side of this image. So again, use the fill frame proportionally to make sure that frame is full. Same here, get rid of the first line in it on the first paragraphs and then keep it on the subsequent ones. All right. Moving on to the magazine here. So this is one thing that, look, I can't tell if it's an illusion or not. Okay, it's not. So look at this reputation risk. It's slightly crooked. You see how on this side the line is even with it. By the time it gets over here, it's a bit high. So this is going down a little bit, this red banner. So make sure and straighten that out. Looks like this word top isn't quite right aligned with the rest of the text below. Maybe there's a space there you need to get rid of. This calendar looks kind of fuzzy. It's I think a lower resolution image. So I would try to find a higher resolution one to put in there. Keep that from being fuzzy, and do a soft return of social media so the media is not an orphan down there. And here too, I'd get rid of the first line indent of the first paragraph. Just move that back, but then the subsequent paragraphs, that's fine. And I'd do the same, get rid of the first line indent on these ones underneath the numbered list, unless it's multiple paragraphs. Now here, all of a sudden, you shift to space between paragraphs where you haven't had any before. So make sure and go back to the way you've been. Don't put space between the paragraphs here where you have in other places. And this one here doesn't have any. So get rid of this space here to go along with the rest of your design. Same here, we've gone to space between paragraphs in some places, but not in others. So just get rid of that. And get rid of the first line indent on the first lines after those headings, those subheadings. I'd soft return this. It's more ideal to have a URL all fit on one line. This is a really long one. It's not going to happen. So rather than have it break where it is, I'd do a soft return after the slash on cards and let it go down to the next line there. All right. Now here we still have this problem here. We need to get rid of these white backgrounds behind the text, or we need to make them consistent. Okay, so you could put like a bar of white that goes across the whole thing and has the text in it, or you could have them come in from the left and come to the right, but be aligned at the top and aligned at the bottom and have the same amount of space between the two of them as you do here, but they need to be consistent with each other. As it is, they look a little like it's kind of willy-nilly, right? Where those are, how big they are, if there's something on the right, if there's something on the left. We need to make sure that's all consistent. I close the letting up of on story. Our story unfolds with every sit. Let's make that a little tighter. Move vanilla, bring the surprise up closer to Tazo quality, or Tazo quality down toward that. And I'd close the letting on vanilla bean surprise as well. Double check this text here, ingredients, white tea, vanilla bean, natural flavors. Looks like it might have been distorted a little bit, so double check that that's not stretched. This one, remember we ran into this problem before. Let me open this in Acrobat. For some reason, it's stretching the. So on these, again, remember, we need to get flats. So these mock-ups are going to be great, but we need accompanying flats. The mock-ups should be the secondary thing, not the primary. So make sure we have some flats of these designs. And when looking at your flats, look for things like, is New Orleans slanted? Because on this, it looks like it's leaning down a little bit compared to this in the background. And when you put it on the flat, that might not look that way. But that's the thing to look for on the flat. Same with these, how do things line up, right, or slant? Like you see on New Orleans, the N is really close to the top there. The S is really far away from up there. The whole thing's slanting down. Now, that very much could be from the mock-up, but you need to check that, and we need to have the flat in here so we can see what it looks like without the mock-up. Also here on this mock-up, notice your billboard's going down, ends up here, and we end up with this space on the edge of it there, so you'll want to fix that. But the biggest thing with these ones, we need the flats, okay? All right, so that's it for Cynthia's. Let me know if you have any questions about that at all after you watch this. Well, I think we've got time for one more today, so we're going to do Haley's. Okay. So this, I would separate this out a bit. And I see we're going from this line underneath it where it's getting all chunked together. It's not lining up quite right. You've got places where it's sticking down further than in other places, or where this is cutting into the G. So I just spread that out like you did with sans. Give it a little space. You can still have it sitting on sans like that. But give it a little space so we can read Gil sans clearly there. These first line indents are pretty big. I might reduce those to about half of what this is, and your first line shouldn't have one. So just get rid of the first line entirely on that first paragraph. And then the other ones make them about half as big. All right. Now so the font that you've got this in right here is Comic Sans, okay? And Comic Sans is a font that you don't ever want to use professionally. Oh, geez, didn't mean to do that. You don't ever want to use Comic Sans professionally. It's a font that is in very, very poor favor as far as the design world. So we want to replace all these ones where Torfac, Kayak Rental, Custom Adventures, About Us, Guided by with Tours, Ocean Adventures, and a tour package for taste. Pick another font besides Comic Sans for that. Okay. Also, close that gap between the subhead and the paragraph. Let's bring those together. And get rid of the first line indent on the first paragraph of every one of these. So on these ones, for example, you get rid of it there, but we would want it on the second paragraph, or in this case, the third paragraph too. So first line indent, none on the first paragraph, yes on second or third, the way you have this laid out. Okay. Here with Stella's. I think these turned out pretty nice here now. I would close the leading a bit on the address. Just close that leading a bit, bring those lines a little closer together. All right. Okay, so look at this. I've run a line underneath this address over here on this panel on the left, this 8510016, and I get over to this panel on the right, and I've still got a lot of space before it gets to it. So make sure that these are lined up with each other. It looks like you'll need to probably bring this one down. You want those space lines, because they're the same thing, make sure they're lined up with each other. And don't center this text. Let's left align that and get rid of this quality with the hyphen. We want that to just be all together. You'll left align this text. This being a list, I would have the checkboxes be aligned with each other, but then the text I would have all lined up with each other too. So basically, I would have it so that this line here is where B goes, sodium goes, that goes, and so we've got this nice clean line of text, and then these boxes are sticking out to the left a bit, well, or the top in this case. That'll also get rid of this orphan here. Same here, I'd align the second lines of these numbered lists with the text of the first line, not the number of the first line. And there's some there's some text right here. that looks like it might have been on this image. Get rid of that. This image here, extend it all the way to the dashed line there instead of leaving that little gap, or leave more of a gap. Just don't have it be that small of a gap, so either no gap at all or more of a gap there. And same here, align this, the second and third lines, these lists with the first line, not with the number. All right. This turned out nice here. I might try, I'm not saying for sure, but just give it a try. This brown in the middle of this one might look nice with this darker brown like you've got down here below. All right. Otherwise, so things look really good. Okay. Well, so there are the first few of them. We'll be doing the remaining ones on Thursday and talking a bit more about what you're doing with them as far as your Behance or Muse portfolios on Thursday as well. Please, again, let me know if you have any questions about anything. And otherwise, I hope you have a couple of days, a great couple of days. Thanks.